got to know your data. You've got to know what your goal is, how you're trying to get there, and what it's going to take to ensure that you do hit that target.
Welcome to episode 247 of the industry's leading business podcast for fitness owners and managers. This month's interviews are brought to you by our podcast partner, One Fit Stop. One Fit Stop provides scheduling, client management, programming, and payment collection tools that will set your business up for success. To find out more, go to onefitstop.com or click on the link in today's show notes. Now, before I introduce you to this week's special guest, I've got a quick question for you. Do you currently subscribe to the show? If the answer is yes, then a gold star for you. If the answer is no, then let me tell you why you should. Subscribing is completely free. It takes less than 20 seconds to enter your name and email on the website, or alternatively, you can just hit that little subscribe button on your podcast player. But most importantly, it means that each week, without you having to remember to check, the new episode gets automatically sent directly to you. So if you're like me and you're committed to learning and professional development, then don't even think about it. Just go ahead and do it. Hit subscribe now. Go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com or click on the subscribe button under Fitness Business Podcast on your phone's podcast player. Happy learning. Welcome to our latest edition of our In the Shoes series. Today's episode is specifically designed for all of our personal trainers out there that want to know more about what it takes to be a subcontractor PT and, most importantly, how to make it successful. Our expert guest on the topic is personal training performance coach Chris Mooney. In 2016, Chris launched 51 Fit with the goal of leveraging his 20 plus years experience in the industry to help prospective PTs make it through their first 12 months working as a commercial gym personal trainer. His business, 51 Fit, has now evolved to offer coaching and mentoring services to established PTs to help keep them focused, accountable, and help them succeed. Further to this, Chris has partnered with the Australian-based EMF Performance Centres as the PT manager across their 7 and rapidly growing clubs. During this week's show, I chat to Chris about the advantages of working as a subcontractor personal trainer. We talk about the best way for a new PT to approach a subcontractor arrangement, how to market your PT services within a club, tips for time management, and last of all, Chris shares advice for running a profitable PT business as a subcontractor. All of that is coming up very soon, but first, thank you to our podcast partner. One Fit Stop's scheduling, client management, programming, and payment collection tools will set your business up for success. Find out more at onefitstop.com. Enjoy this week's show with my special guest, Chris Mooney. Hey, Chris, welcome. Thanks for joining us on the show today.
Great, Chantal. Thanks for having me on your show.
So, Chris, over the last sort of 5 years or so, I would say we've seen this explosion of gyms outsourcing their PT services to subcontractors. So, in other words, obviously trainers who are paying rent to use a facility. Tell me a little bit about why you think that has occurred in the industry.
To be honest with you, Chantal, I think this is happening because of the current model in play with a lot of the big box gyms and also with the amount of money to be made from an RTO's perspective. So, you know, there's a lot of personal trainers out there looking for an opportunity. And we have large gyms that are pumping, you know, thousands of members through the doors that they need to serve. So there is somewhat of a demand for the personal trainer. And I mean, you know, it's a big outlay if you're going to be hiring 10, 15, 20 personal trainers in your facility. So I think the model makes sense in that regard, in that, you know, you've provided an amazing facility, state of the art in most cases. The PT can roll in there and you know, pay their contribution to operate out of there.
So in your experience, Chris, what would you say would be, first of all, the advantages, but then also the disadvantages from a PT perspective of working in this model?
Oh, you know, let's start with the advantages, because there's many more of them, I believe, than disadvantages. I mean, if you're listening to this and you're just kicking off your personal trainer career, there's some things that you probably don't recognize or would appreciate straight away. But for those of us that are listening that are gym managers and owners, or you've been down the PT model, you would definitely acknowledge that, little things like personal trainers don't have to buy toilet paper in a PT rental model, okay? If something goes wrong with the facility, you don't have to come in on a Sunday and fix it, or in the middle of the night and stop the leaks. You don't have to really worry about things like electricity bills and internet and all this sorts of stuff, things that you don't really think about at first when you're considering a career as a personal trainer if you're thinking your own facility. So the advantages in terms of the operational aspect, there's many. You literally walk in, you run your business and your clients, and you leave, and you've basically left behind any dramas with relation to the upkeep and the running of the facility itself. So that's probably the biggest ones. I mean, you've also, in most cases, you'll have some sort of process or system run by other people that are bringing members to you. They're bringing potential clients to you. So most facilities, commercial gyms, have a sales team or someone in charge of bringing memberships on. So that's another thing you don't really need to do. The lead generation in commercial gyms is a term that's used quite often, but it's not really about generating leads. They're already there. It's about capitalizing on what's in front of you. So another advantage there is you don't really have to worry about bringing people into the facility. The marketing is done usually by the facility itself. So again, your rent, covers a part of that. You've got people that are actively prepared and ready and paying for the product that you deliver, in that they've got a gym membership. They're ready to go. So there's a bunch of advantages there to being a personal trainer operating under a commercial or subcontractor agreement within another facility. The disadvantages, I guess, are at some point you have to make the connection that you're not an employee, and a lot of guys and girls come in with that mentality because this is their first jump into self-employment, and it takes a while to shift that mind from being an employee into running your own business. So the disadvantages are that, you do have to turn up and put yourself out there in front of people. You do have to get out of your comfort zone and look for opportunities to convert those members into your PT client, whatever that model is, whether you do semi-private PT or one-on-one PT or group fitness. There's really not that many disadvantages, in my opinion, to being a commercial gym personal trainer if you fully grasp the concept of what that is. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, Chris, and you make a really good point about the mindset in which you approach your role in this circumstance or in this particular model. And I think that's maybe a sticking point for a lot of people. And you mentioned, having that ability to understand the difference between being an employee who maybe, you have been in a previous role versus really running your own business essentially. So when it comes to that mindset piece, when you actually go through the process and decide to subcontract and you commit to a rental agreement, in your opinion, what type of mindset should you have as a new personal trainer to make sure that you make this model a success?
It's an interesting thing that I'm going to ask people to wrap their head around on this one, Chantal, but it's you need to be in the same mindset you are trying to encourage your client to be in. This is the big thing that makes my head spin is, as personal trainers, we tell or we try to convince people they need to follow our program. They need to count their calories. They need to map their workouts and write down their sets and their reps. And they need to do all of this so we as the trainer can look back and find out what's working, what's not working, and tweak and move forward accordingly. Yet personal trainers don't do the same for their business. You've got to be as into the data for running your own business as you are trying to convince humans to be into the data to achieve their fitness and health goals.
So let's just talk about that data for a second, because you actually brought that up in the Precor Quickfire 5 last week, and you mentioned that that's one of the rituals that has, really contributes to your success. So when you refer to data, give us a bit of an insight of some of the data that's essential that we're actually keeping track of as a contractor personal trainer.
Yeah, great. Okay, there's a number of things to focus on, but the primary ones are, what are you doing? What opportunities are you creating for yourself? So leads generated. Okay, so as I said earlier, the leads, so to speak, are already in the gym. So how many people are you speaking to to give yourself an opportunity to promote your service or your product. Okay. Then from understanding how many people you've spoken to, then how many have gone ahead and have made an appointment to see you in a consultation or free session style appointment. From that many people, how many of those have you converted over to paying clients, right? So then we know that if we need to speak to 20 people to get 10 to book in or schedule an appointment with you to sell 3 onto PT packs, then we know that if we want to do 6 PT packs, we need to double all of those numbers, right? So generating the lead is part of it. And then you've got to know what am I needing to do in order to convert those into paying clients, right? It's not just walk the gym floor, talk to someone, get them on the books and away you go, because that will only work for so long. So there's sales metrics is what you want to look at is opportunities created, appointments generated from those opportunities, consultations that are completed as a part of the appointments generated, and then opportunities to then flip into paying clients moving forward.
So with each of those metrics, Chris, how frequently should we be tracking those?
Daily. It's definitely a daily thing. I mean, you want to set your goal, so you might say, right, for this week, I want to be generating this number of new clients or this many sessions. And then you've got to work backwards from there. So if I said, as a personal trainer, I want to have 20 sessions a week, how do I get there? It's not every single person is going to be a home run. You're not going to have a conversation with someone and they convert, and then every single person you do. So it's something you do need to track daily, and those numbers will ebb and flow, over your first couple of weeks. Some days you'll have good days, some days you'll have bad days. But if you're tracking it daily, you can then look back at the end of the week and get a better look at the picture of what it took you to get to where you are. And you continue to track those over a month, then you can get a better, clearer picture. Just like our training. It's just like we preach out there when we're talking about personal training, and the reason why you need me as your trainer is we want to be able to track what's working, what's not working. We can see if what's not working can be improved on, and we look at what is working and we try and maximize that.
This is such an important fundamental for personal trainers, and I think it's regardless of whether or not you're in a contractor model or if you're an employee, and it really comes down to basics, doesn't it? Back to basics. And I think that we sometimes have this tendency to set off on the right foot and start collecting that data and start tracking those numbers. But then as time goes on, things get in the way and we get busy, and sometimes actually keeping track of those metrics can fall off our priority list. So I think this is a really good opportunity for all of our PTs that are listening today to just check back in and make sure that you are actually taking those steps that Chris is talking about and checking in on each of those numbers, because this is just such a great kind of reminder of why that is so important, and having that structure is essential in order for us to have a successful business. Now, one of the other areas that I wanted to talk to you about, Chris, is actually the agreement for a subcontractor, so that we've all got complete clarity around this area. So as a personal trainer, what would you say are some of the conditions that should be included in that subcontractor agreement to make sure that it's a positive and successful relationship, not just for you as the PT, but also for the gym owner?
Oh, I mean, this is another thing that can be varied. I'm a big believer in you can only negotiate as well as what you bring to the negotiation. If you're fresh out of an RTO and you've just got your Cert 4 and you really haven't done a great deal, then you really don't have much to bargain with. You're in some cases you're turning up to a several $1 million worth of facility with an established client base, with a team of people putting more members in. Like everything's done for you. So there's really not much you can bring to the negotiation table versus someone who maybe is already operating in a facility nearby. They've got an established business and client base. They're going to come across to the facility and then potentially bring with them, all those clients that will come over as new members. Yeah, maybe you've got a bit more to negotiate with, but at the end of the day, all you can really ask for is for it to be reasonably fair. And when I say reasonably, obviously, again, keeping in mind the gym owner or the facility is the one with the most at risk. As long as you got a professional, clean, fully functioning and safe environment for you to run your facility from, it's maintained, and they do have processes in place to continue to bring people to the door that gives you that opportunity to convert. There's really not much more you could ask for. I've been in the industry quite some time, so I'm sort of spinning my wheels on all different kinds of contracts that I've seen, and a lot of the feedback from the hundreds of PTs that I've dealt with in my time. And usually the only time a contract is in dispute is under a personal trainer that's underperforming, and they're usually underperforming purely based on their own actions or lack thereof. I'm yet to find a personal trainer that's successful and doing well that has any problem with most commercial gym agreements.
Great insight from your experience there, Chris. Thank you for sharing that. So let's move on now to my favourite area, which is marketing. And I know that you mentioned earlier that obviously a lot of the times in a subcontracting arrangement, the gym themselves looks after the external marketing as far as bringing new members into the gym. But how about for the personal trainer themselves? How do you find is the best way for a personal trainer to actually market their business?
Oh, great question. I mean, and I think there's a lot of influence out there that is directing personal trainers' attentions into the wrong areas. When you're a personal trainer operating inside a commercial gym, one of the last things you should be considering is Facebook advertising or social media advertising. Your audience is in those four walls. The people that are going to purchase your PT or want to work with you are literally standing in front of you. If you're trying to promote something online, you might grab a few here and there that just happen to also be members at the gym, but you're doing that at the expense of the ones that are literally right in front of you. So the best way to market your business is first and foremost your personal presentation, the way you communicate and the way you conduct yourself in the facility. If you're walking around looking sharp, and now you don't have to be competition stage ready, you just got to look good and understand how you carry yourself. Communicate, be accessible to the members, and be willing to help, right? If you can get those things up and running, you're off to a good start. Then you've got to be able to obtain results for your client. Yeah, so whether those results are to compete in a marathon or to get someone up on stage or to help someone feel just good about themselves, whatever that is, you need to be the person that can achieve those results for those clients. Now, everyone else in that facility, walking on treadmills, doing classes, doing their own workouts, you're always on show. They'll know if your clients are enjoying themselves and getting great results. They'll know if you carry yourself as a professional and you communicate well. This is where your attention needs to be with regards to marketing you and your business inside a commercial gym. Once you get to that stage where your books are full, okay, now you might look at some external ways of marketing in terms of being able to then scale your business. But until you're at that stage, it really needs to be those things I've just mentioned.
Chris, I am so glad that you mentioned all of that because I hate to bring this up, and I've brought it up on the show before, but it absolutely drives me crazy when I walk through my gym and I see the personal trainers with their heads down, sitting on a piece of equipment, on their phone, drinking a takeaway coffee, just having absolutely zero engagement and presence in what's going on in the facility without realizing the huge negative effect that actually has on their profile and on their brand and on their ability to potentially get new leads. So thank you so much for bringing up that state about, it's every single time you are in that facility, you're advertising, you're marketing your services. So you've got to be on point all the time.
Yeah, relentlessly so. I mean, I know personal trainers that have amazing physiques that can't make it work. I've seen people come on board with significant social media following and they can't make it work. And I've seen guys and girls who, with all due respect, are an average looking person. They're not the big bodybuilder and they're not the performance athlete, but you know what? They communicate well. They build a great community around them inside that facility and they make people feel amazing every time they engage with them and they're crushing it. Now, if you can combine those two, if you are a high-level athlete or you've got the amazing physique or you've got the following, whatever, and you can be the ultimate professional and make people feel amazing, then the sky's the limit.
Just taking this marketing conversation sort of one step further, Chris, what are your thoughts in regards to doing internal promotions? So let's say doing a challenge or doing some type of an offer or a flyer to give out to the members of the gym. What's your thoughts and experience in that area?
Okay, hope you're ready for this. I've got a slightly different outlook on that. Posters don't work, flyers don't work. 2019, people aren't looking at the wall, and they're certainly not looking at a counter to pick up a piece of paper. Okay, so I do have a spin on that. I don't think that posters, like electronic versions, are done. What I recommend people do is, go ahead, be creative, make a poster, make a flyer, keep it on your phone. Okay, what that does is it still gives you something tangible to hand over to someone. It's a lot cheaper as well. But basically, it encourages you and almost forces you to go and have a human interaction with another human. So you have to go up and say, hey, my name is Chris. I'm one of the trainers here. Tell me about yourself. What sort of training do you like to do? Oh, great. This is something I might be able to help you with. Hey, I've got this cool promotion. I've got this cool challenge I'm going to be running. Here's the information on my phone. What's your number? Let me text it to you. Then you can have a look at it when you get home, and I'll follow you up in a day or two and see if it's something you might be interested in. Now, different to having a poster on a wall, which you have zero control over, now you've got the poster in the hands of your potential client, and you've got a phone number that you're able to follow them up with.
Thank you for sharing that with us today, Chris. So I want to move on to the topic of time management, because I've got to say one of the most common things that I hear from a lot of personal trainers, be they subcontractors or employees, is just the difficulty that they sometimes face in actually being able to manage their time effectively. And that is between the technical side of training versus working on the business and doing the marketing and plus doing their courses and fitting everything into their day. So do you want to share with us some advice or tips around how personal trainers who are subcontractors can best manage their time?
Yeah, absolutely. And this covers off, my response to this is going to cover off, things we've already mentioned with regards to the right mindset and with the marketing and also the advantages and disadvantages. The big one is discipline. We need to develop discipline. I know I mentioned it earlier, personal trainers are quite disciplined when it comes to their workouts. They're quite disciplined when it comes to their meals and their macros and all this sort of stuff. But one thing they suck at is being disciplined to do the things that they know are going to benefit them and grow their business. So if they can develop discipline, they will then find the confidence to do these other things that they are currently finding a challenge, right? So right now you sit there and say, well, and again, I've had this chat with personal trainers. It's like, hey, why can't you make this time? I've got a training session to do. I've got to work out today. Even if it means missing out on an opportunity to learn or to grow or to develop their business, So it's about time management and having the discipline to do the things will get you the result you want, even if it's not what you feel like doing at the time. So a really simple one is to get a diary. Put a line at the start of the day when you first wake up and put a line at the end of the day when you plan to go to sleep. Put in the most important things in that diary that you feel you need to cover for the day. Okay, that might be your meals and it might be your workout or it might be whatever you find the most important. Then have a look at what's left. Then in those times, slice it up and put in the appropriate things. So, for example, a personal trainer already there, we all know that peak hour is in the morning. So you're going to get up, have your breakfast, you're going to go and you're going to do your client work. You might finish your client work, and then it depends how you are. If you're someone that likes to keep going while you're on a roll, finish your client work, maybe have a quick snack, and then get into your business development work. Okay, after your business development work, then you might do your workout. After your workout, you might give yourself, 10, 20 minutes, half an hour if you've got the time to just clear your head. Focus, think of everything you've just got through in the last couple of hours. Then you're back into the afternoon of training your clients. Finish up with your clients, go home, have your meals. And this is important. Stop, review, and reset. So that's stop, chill out, review the day you've just had, and then reset, ready to go tomorrow. If you're winging it, that's where you start to, things start to sort of build up, and before you know it, you've missed a couple of tasks and it's halfway through the week and you're already behind. Then you're chasing your tail, and then all the things like anxiety and stress start to build up and it completely rattles you. So you need that discipline that I mentioned at the top to come all the way back around and start again. Think about why you got in the industry to begin with. I feel that once things become challenging, people forget that. We got in the industry to help people get fitter, faster, leaner, in the industry to help people exercise more because it's something we like to do. It's something we enjoy doing, okay? If you lose sight of that, it becomes a job. And once you're in job, you slip into employee mode. When you're in employee mode, you start watching the clock, okay? We've got to keep bringing it back. Why are we in this industry to begin with? It's a completely optional and a decision we made to do so. So if you can keep that in front of mind, you'll find that all of a sudden you'll start to push through a bit more. You'll start to realize, what? It feels amazing when Mary is now able to do the things she couldn't do before. It's really fantastic now when someone gets a lot stronger than they were, or they've built up the confidence to do what they wanted to do, or at the higher end, they they're up on stage or they're winning their races. So it's really important. We've got to keep tying back. Why did we do this in the first place?
It's such a great reminder, Chris, and I want to just put it out there for anyone that is relatively new to the show that hasn't heard us talk about Simon Sinek's Start With Why, or didn't hear the interview that I did in regards to Find Your Why. Then I really encourage you to get out and make sure that you read that book or jump on and have a look at the TED Talk that Simon Sinek does, which is really about reminding us and finding out why it is that we do what we do. And I think it's times like those that as you suggested, Chris, we can go back and just remind ourselves what it's all about. And team, I'll pop a link in the show notes to that video and to that book so you can get your hands on those. So, Chris, we finish off our shows with Fit Inspiration. So for today, can you give us 3 tips for running a profitable PT business as a subcontractor?
All righty, so 3 tips. The first one is things I've already mentioned is data. You've got to know your data. You've got to know what your goal is, how you're trying to get there, and what it's going to take to ensure that you do hit that target. Okay, that's the first one. Second one is you've got to enjoy this. If you don't enjoy waking up in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning to come and help people work out and hit their goals, it's going to be a slog for you. So you really have to enjoy what it is that you do. Okay, and the third one is you've got to have a plan. You know, I've got a little acronym that I like to use. Just a step-by-step basically is understand your goal. What is your goal? And as you just mentioned, what is your why? Then what is your plan that you're going to develop to put into play so that you can hit that goal? Then this is the important part. You've got to execute on that plan. Okay, you need to know the plan and then execute on it exactly the way you wrote it. Then you review the results. If the results are there, you repeat them. If the results aren't there, you adjust. You make the changes required. Then you start again. You execute, you review, you adjust. You execute, you review, you adjust. So these are my 3 ones. It's just you've got to enjoy what you're doing. You know, you've got to think about why you did that. You've got to understand the data, and then you've got to stick to the plan and keep executing day after day after day.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really fascinating hearing your experience on the topic of subcontractor personal trainers. Thank you for sharing that experience and all of those years of knowledge with us so that we can all become better in our jobs and really make a successful career in the fitness industry. Thank you so much for joining me today, Chris.
Thanks for having me on, Chantel. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great to have a chat with you.
MyZone is a wearable technology platform that leverages personal goal setting, gamification, and social platforms to motivate your members. To find out more, go to myzone.org.
Precor Quickfire 5.
This week's Precor Quickfire 5 guest is the CEO of InShape, Francesca Schuler. Francesca, a super warm welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here, Chantal, and thank you for having me again. It's been great to learn from everybody else who's been on the show.
And I love hearing from you, and I love that you listen to the show. So thank you so much for all of your support. Now, we are going to start things off with our Precor Quickfire 5 today. So tell everyone, why do you do what you do?
Well, for me in fitness, it's been twofold. You know, I love to lead organizations because I just am inspired about creating great member experiences. More importantly, unleashing talent in a team. But talent and progression really comes with confidence. And one of the things that I love about the fitness business is we help people build their confidence. So I love that I can help people build confidence. We can unleash their potential, both for our members and our team members. So that's what I love.
That is a great motivation. And tell us, what's one ritual that helps you become better at what you do?
I'm not a routine person, I will acknowledge, which can be challenging at moments. But for me, actually, probably the most grounding thing that I do that really has helped me keep perspective is dinner with my family. We really, unless one of us is traveling, we have dinner every night together. And it's just a great moment in the day to, you know, provide perspective, connect with what matters to me most, and just have a moment of pause in a really thoughtful way. And that's for me been just critical as I've navigated my career.
That is a beautiful answer, Francesca. And tell us, are there any apps or systems that you use to stay in control of your workload?
I am still searching for that silver bullet. I can tell you the long list of things I've tried, but I am still searching for the silver bullet.
Okay. Well, you let us know when you find it.
And I'm open to any suggestions.
What I'll do is I'll send you back all of our Precor Quickfire 5s. We've got a whole lot of apps in there. But I think it's really, what's really interesting is the most common answer to that question is Google Calendar. That is the most common answer.
Interesting. For me, it's probably texting. Just the ability to respond quickly via text is super helpful.
Sometimes it's the simplest things. So how about this one? Is there a book or a podcast or a blog that you would recommend, and why?
Well, aside from the obvious recommendation of the Fitness Business Podcast, which I really do honestly recommend as key in our industry, and I've actually recommended it to people outside the industry because there's just been so many good lessons I've learned. I am incredibly passionate right now about a book called Late Bloomers by Rich Carlsgad, and I cannot recommend it enough. He has written a phenomenal book around just the journey of life and the perspective that we need to have, that it's a long game. I say it at work all the time. And his book has many really key points, but most of all that our current approach to sort of everyone trying to be on the list of 20 under 20 is actually reducing the potential we're creating in the world, because people opt out. Then they're like, oh, I didn't make it at 20, then I'm done. And I believe you have potential till the day you die. And I think he's done a phenomenal job of laying that out, and it's incredibly thoughtfully written. And for me, it's been helpful as an individual, as a parent, as a leader. So really fired up about that book. Giving it to everybody I know this summer.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we haven't had that recommendation, so I'll definitely grab the link for today's show notes. And thank you so much for your support of the show. Every time I hear someone say that they've benefited or they have shared it with someone else, it just makes me so happy, and I'm so grateful for your support, Francesca. Thank you for that. And tell everyone, you did touch on it briefly when we talked about why you do what you do, but just give us a brief insight into the main topic that we're going to be focusing on during your interview.
Well, I think, you and I have chatted in the past about how fitness is such a great industry, but not necessarily one that people think of as a place to build a career. And, hopefully I'll share some thoughts on how we're really passionate about making In Shape and the fitness industry in general as a place that really grows great leaders and has people realize potential they never thought. I think most people get into the industry because they're passionate about fitness and or passionate about helping people. But actually, it's a great place to build a phenomenal career as a leader, and I'm hoping to touch on some of those points today.
Well, I'm really looking forward to having this conversation. I'm grateful that we've got the opportunity to get this on the show, Francesca. So thank you for joining us today for the Precor Quickfire 5.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me for this week's episode, and a reminder that all the resources and the links for today's show can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you to our foundation partner, Active Management. As a listener of the show, you have a special opportunity to work with JT. You can get one free session when you buy one coaching session. No matter where you are in the world, technology allows him to work with you. Go to activemgmt.com.au/FBP family and work with JT to get more people moving and moving more often. That's one free session when you buy one coaching session. Simply go to activemgmt.com.au/FBP family. Thank you so much for joining me for today's show. Remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.